8. Reflections. Awareness is I subject. Truth is that which lies in a dimension beyond the reach of thought. What is your trouble? Mistaken identity. Birth is the birth of the I concept. Death is the death of the I concept. There is no other birth. There is no other death. The world is only a picture projected onto a screen. I am pure subject. Everything I perceive is my object, but as object, ultimately myself. There is no path. Paths lead from here to there. How can a path lead from here to here? It could only lead away from home. All methods require a doer. The only doer is the I concept. All objects are necessarily untouchable. Within and without, above and below. What is the resolution of these opposites? A further direction of measurement. While whole mind has no thoughts, thoughts are split mind. The aggregate of latent tendencies, held together by an I concept, is that which reincarnates, whatever that may be. How do we know that the world is transitory, that time is passing, that nothing stands still? We could not know that our river was flowing unless we could put one foot on the bank. There is no entity, only a continuum, and that continuum is consciousness. Humility is the inevitable condition resulting from the absence of an I concept. Without such absence, humility can only be a mask for pride, which is its counterpart. Science is concerned with objects which are unreal. If it concerned itself with the subject of the objects, it might find out what they really are. Mind is the dynamic aspect of matter. The present does not exist objectively. It is subject itself. The future, being unknown to us always, we live entirely in the past. Searching is trying to see the self reality as an object. But all the time, that object is subject. Karma and reincarnation and all belong to the dream world. The dream goes on. Meditation is exercising the I concept. He who is in the habit of looking down upon others has not got rid of the erroneous idea of a self. Hui Neng, page 40. Non-action is what we call spontaneity. 9. The readjustment. Awakening is a readjustment. That the state is always present is our normal, permanent, real nature, as the masters of all the doctrines never tire of telling us. But the conscious experience of it is denied us by a deviation of subjectivity onto a concept that, as such, is unreal, an object in consciousness appearing as its own subject. Until this phantom is exercised by being exposed, subjectivity appears to be bound, and we cannot experience it as it is in reality. When this anomalous situation is understood, we need to start putting this understanding into practice. That is, not just thinking about it, but experiencing it. There have been people, apparently born ready, for whom the fact of understanding has been sufficient in itself to produce the experience. But for the rest of us, habit and practice are a necessary prelude to conscious experience of our reality. However, it is important to understand that there is nothing to acquire, but only an error to be exposed, because acquiring necessarily involves using and so strengthening that spurious I whose dissolution we require. For this, merely a readjustment is needed. Such readjustment being the abandonment of identification with an inexistent individual self. An abandonment which leaves us unblindfolded and awake in our eternal nature. To seek to persuade ourselves that we do not exist as individual entities is, however, to ask an I, EYE, to believe that what it is looking at is not there. But it is not we alone who have no existence as entities. There are not any anywhere in the reality of the cosmos, never have been and never could be. Only whole mind can reveal this knowledge as direct cognition, which, once realized, is obvious. That is the total readjustment, and only I remains. Silence. 2. Silence, regarded metaphysically, is considerably different from conventional silence. Dualistically defined, silence as one element in a comparison of opposites, silence as the opposite and complement of noise. The silence which the Maharshi states is more powerful than speech, a more potent medium of instruction than words, the silence in which and by which occurs the transmission of mind via mind, in which the ultimate doctrine of the Buddha was handed down from patriarch to patriarch according to the Chan masters, is rather the background of the time illusion, the interval between thoughts that is normally imperceptible to divided mind, of infinitesimal duration, but which is in itself intemporal, of no or of infinite duration. If we can seize it, so we are told, and hold it, the mind stays open, and we are awake at last. What then is it, this metaphysical silence? Clearly it is the Buddha mind of Chan and the witness of Vedanta, the father of Christianity, i.e. whole mind. The mechanism of dualism seems to be that of the escapement of a clock, which is also an instrument for recording time. One half momentarily stops the flow of time, and then the other, tick-tock, and then the other, tick-tock. So does each half of split mind, tick-tock, tick-tock, and the interval between each tick is pure movement. The background, the intemporal reality which, measured by each alternative tick, becomes time as we know it. And the tick-tock, the alternative stoppage, is the comparison of opposites, the activity of split mind, which we know as thought and mentation. We can now see why every one of the awakened tells us ad nauseum that all we need to do is to arrest the movement of thought in order to know whole mind and find ourselves awake. It explains also why Wu or Satori is always precipitated by a sudden sound, anything from a clap of thunder to the snapping of a twig, or indeed any other sensory perception whatever. Such perception momentarily arrests the eternal tick-tock of thought, and, the subject being ripe, whole mind takes possession and is no longer split. That the awakened continue to know divided mind in communicating with those who remain identified is evident, but for them that condition is the abnormal and the state of whole mind the normal, instead of the contrary, as with the rest of us. But it is surely an error to suppose that we do not know whole mind in our daily life. For the consciousness that is aware of our having thought is certainly that. A consciousness that is ever awake, is always present, and that alone is real.